Hey everyone, and welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into a really fascinating biological puzzle, left-handedness. Have you ever just looked around, your office or a crowded coffee shop, and realized there's a small, distinct group of people whose brains might literally be working completely differently from the rest of us? Well, today, we're investigating exactly that. We're going to explore why this super unique trait has stuck around for tens of thousands of years, and see if we can unpack the hidden evolutionary secrets behind the left-handed mind. Let's get right into it.
Okay, so here's the big number, just 10%. Only 10% of the entire human population is left-handed. Now, on the surface, that might just sound like a fun piece of trivia to drop at a party, but to evolutionary biologists, this statistic is a massive, unsolved mystery. You see, when a trait is this rare, scientists naturally start scratching their heads, wondering why nature has kept it around instead of just letting it fade out. I mean, if right-handedness is the overwhelming default for us, why does this 10% still show up in literally every single generation? It really makes you wonder, what if left-handed folks aren't just different? What if they were actually fundamentally crucial to human survival?
And honestly, looking back at history brilliantly highlights just how deep this mystery goes. When archaeologists examine ancient cave walls from thousands of years ago, they find something truly incredible. Among all the standard right-handed handprints left by our ancestors, there is clear, undeniable evidence of rare left-handed prints mixed right in. This is proof that left-handed people have been walking the earth since the absolute dawn of humanity. Just think about that for a second. Through brutal evolutionary pressures, countless wars, massive plagues, and the total collapse of civilizations, left-handedness never vanished. And nature? Well, nature doesn't usually hold on to a trait for tens of thousands of years unless it serves a very specific, absolutely crucial purpose. So, modern survival theory actually offers a really fascinating explanation for this. Researchers started noticing that lefties often have a distinct edge in hand-to-hand combat, and even in modern competitive sports. And here's why. Back in the days of ancient tribal combat, right-handed fighters were everywhere. That meant their attack patterns were entirely predictable. But a left-handed enemy? Oh, their movements were highly unusual, totally unexpected, and wildly dangerous to a right-handed fighter who just wasn't used to blocking from those weird angles. So, anthropologists now suspect that being left-handed was actually a massive life or death advantage in ancient conflicts, simply because their enemies literally didn't know how to react to them. Okay, so let's fast forward to modern science and see how this shifts from ancient battlefield brawn to actual measurable differences in brain chemistry. When scientists do brain scans on left-handed individuals, they spot this fascinating neurological state called cross-hemisphere communication. Basically, what this means is that in a lot of lefties, both sides of the brain are chatting with each other way more actively than in your typical right-handed brain. The neural pathways are just firing back and forth at lightning speed, constantly bridging the gap between the left and right hemispheres. And the real kicker here is that this hyperactive cross-hemisphere communication doesn't just look cool on a screen. It actually translates to some major real-world cognitive perks. All this rapid-fire neural chatter equips left-handed people with significantly enhanced creativity. It allows them to adapt incredibly fast to new unexpected scenarios. And, maybe most importantly, it fuels highly unusual problem-solving capabilities. They are, quite literally, wired to look at a problem from an angle that the rest of us might just completely miss. But right when we think we've got it all figured out, the mystery actually gets deeper. Because even with all our advanced science today, researchers still can't fully predict exactly how these left-handed brains are going to develop. It is definitely not a one-size-fits-all situation. For instance, some left-handed folks process language in entirely different regions of their brain compared to right-handers. Others organize and process their emotions in completely unique ways. It's wild. Even today, scientists are still scratching their heads over just how unpredictable the left-handed mind can be. Unfortunately, though, society hasn't always celebrated this incredible neurological diversity. Actually, for a very long time, it was actively feared. If we look back at history, the left hand was so deeply misunderstood that in old Europe, the Latin root word for left was literally the origin of the word sinister. Yeah, sinister. And that wasn't just some quirky linguistic accident. It reflected a very real, deeply ingrained societal suspicion that anything outside the right-handed norm was somehow wrong, dangerous, or even evil. We can clearly see the tragic, real-world fallout of this historical stigma right inside the classroom. For generations, kids who naturally favored their left hand were put through some awful school punishments. Teachers would physically force children to suppress their basic natural instincts. We're talking about punishments that escalated from literally tying a child's left hand behind their back to forcing them to repeatedly write lines with their right hand, usually while awkwardly smudging wet ink everywhere, just to force them into this right-handed standard. And hey, that's not even mentioning the everyday, totally frustrating torture of just trying to use a pair of right-handed scissors.
It's honestly heartbreaking, but it's super important to acknowledge the psychological toll this forced switching took. Psychologists today point out that forcing kids to use the wrong hand had an absolutely devastating impact on their developing minds. It bred immense chronic anxiety. These kids felt deep embarrassment for something they literally could not control, which led a lot of them to just withdraw into forced silence in class. Ultimately, it completely shattered their learning confidence, all because society demanded they shut down the way their brains naturally functioned.
Yet here is the amazing part. Despite centuries of being feared, punished, and just deeply misunderstood, that small 10% slice of the population, it never shrank. They keep showing up, right on schedule in every single generation. And what's more, that little slice holds a strange, undeniable pattern of triumph and massive cultural influence.
Which brings us to this absolute powerhouse roster of left-handed greats. Left-handed individuals pop up disproportionately at the very top of music, art, architecture, competitive sports, you name it. We're talking about historical titans like Leonardo da Vinci, musical absolute geniuses like Jimi Hendrix, and huge, transformative, modern leaders and innovators like Barack Obama and Bill Gates. Looking at a list like this, you really have to ask yourself, is this all just one massive coincidence? Or does the human brain specifically create these left-handed thinkers for a reason that science just hasn't fully mapped out yet? When you weigh the ancient combat survival theories right alongside the fascinating cognitive brain science we've gone over in this explainer, a really powerful conclusion starts to form. What society used to view as a sinister flaw, what old schools literally tried to tie behind a kid's back, was actually a profound evolutionary advantage the whole time. The incredible creativity, the unpredictable problem-solving, the entirely unique brain wiring. It turns out maybe being different was never the weakness. Maybe, just maybe, it was the advantage all along. As we wrap up today's explainer, I want to leave you with one final, pretty provocative thought to chew on. Considering how uniquely left-handed brains operate and just how much they have shaped human history, imagine if everything around us, from our basic tools to our classrooms and cities, was built and designed exclusively by left-handed people. Would the 90% right-handed majority be the ones feeling completely out of place? Thanks so much for exploring the left-handed universe with me today.